our thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a situation where you are just you can be lazy while you're diving, but you need to be prepared for the worst.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And part of even what I was going to be talking about today is the difference between planned exercise and planned activity. You know, there was a guy that I remember when I was back in Chicago. There was a gym that I used to go to, and I was already going through exercise science, and I was always in the gym. This guy always saw me. We had a basketball gym. The guys were downstairs running games all day, boom, boom, and it was even back in the day when before Derrick Rose got drafted, he would come in there and he'd work out or run games with those guys. And I remember being in the locker room, and I had already gone through, I think, most of my transformation, if not had already finished it. And it was an older guy. He's like, "Hey, Walt, man," he's like, "You see me in here all the time, right? You see me all the time." And I'm running basketball games, every, boom, boom, right back to back to back. But for whatever reason, I'm not losing weight. Why am I not losing weight? I said, and I just gave him the analogy. I said, look, you would never go into your kitchen and pull out a steak, a raw steak, raw potato from the fridge and a can of green beans, put it on a plate, and then go sit down. Well, you know what? Nowadays, some of the things that we're seeing on these videos with these raw food, the eating of the raw foods, this is ridiculous. But no, so back in the day when things were still a little bit normal, you would never just put that on a plate, go sit down, and then just eat it. You're going to go into the kitchen, take your time, prepare your meal, saute your meat, do everything that you're going to do so that you can go in and enjoy the meal wherever you're going to be. You go in, you sweat over it, so you can go enjoy your meal some other place. It's the same thing with exercise. You come up there, you prepare your body for what you're going to be doing on that court. Because believe it or not, you can practice your skills all day, and sure, you're obviously with duration and time and frequency, you're going to the more you run, you're going to increase VO2 just over time. But as far as really getting in and increasing muscle and dropping fat, that's a different type of planned activity, and that activity really specifically is exercise. The activity that you're doing, though, the sports activity, is different. That's not where you're going to lose weight. So you've got to get in the kitchen, do what you do, so that you can go and enjoy it. And
I
that's
actually see that talked about a lot. People say like, and that was some of the comments, like best way to, I don't know if I'm confusing the comments of this or something else, but people are always like, the best way to get in better shape for diving is diving. It's like, well, yes, to a certain extent, if all else, like if you're comfortable with skills and all that, and you're just out of shape, or like if you get more practice diving, you will be better at diving. But there are things to do, like you're saying, that can like increase the speed of that.
That's exactly right. And
Like,
that's what you just said is just that's more functionally related. That's you're practicing the skills of that function. But in order to prepare your body for that function, the gym or other kinds of exercise or plyometrics, body weight exercises, the things that are going to produce strength and endurance and cardio, which is not that activity, is what you have to specifically and focus on outside, away from diving. You can, however, I mean, if you're lifting up, we talked about this before, if you're lifting up, 50-pound oxygen tanks, but perhaps, you want to, pick up something a little heavier and not, let's say you want to do the 50-pound oxygen tanks because you don't want to feel that when you're walking about maybe 100 yards. Okay, cool. So then pick up something like 75-pound dumbbells in each hand and farmer walk about 50 to 75 yards. Put it down, breathe, pick them back up, set yourself, and then keep going. That's what's going to train you to do what you want to do.
That's exactly what I was thinking, because like when I would play rugby, like rugby practices were intense, the games were intense, but like we had to train outside of that for something that was even tougher, like train our bodies really physically, play rugby really hard, and then the game will be easy. And like I've always done that same thing where I'll pick up. So most of those air tanks are actually only like 35 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll often pick up like a 50-pound dumbbell and walk with it one-handed to be like, okay, like this is harder than well, the handle's a little bit better on a dumbbell, but
right.
But yeah, that's cool.
But that's, like you said, that's exactly right. But then with the dumbbell, you're increasing grip. Not only are you increasing your endurance, but you're increasing overall body strength along with grip strength as well. A lot of times people, have a problem with carrying maybe weight belts. So they've got, especially somebody like myself, I know I always carried, I would say I always had, oh my goodness, I don't know. What did I have? My weight belts were always anywhere from 16 and a half. Yeah, I would say 16 to 18 pounds. I have that on top of, everything else that I'm carrying in my hand. You want to have good grip strength. You're walking through or walking down a slope onto, a beach area in the sand. Guess what? The whole surface has changed. Well, now you're using other, not just your primary, those larger muscles in your calf, but smaller muscles too. In the soleus, your tendons are more active. Your ligaments are a little bit more active too because of the instability of the surface. All those things come into play. So why wouldn't you train and prepare or fortify your body the right way to meet the demands of what you're about to undertake? I mean, to me that just makes sense.
You think that if we're not doing that, not preparing the body, but then putting it through the rigors, what do you think is the cost of that? Besides like an immediate like hurt damage in that moment.
I think injury is on the top of that list. Number one. I think you open yourself up to compensation of muscle, or using certain muscles on one side. Maybe you're stronger on one side than the other. That's the case for everybody. Everybody's got something where we're imbalanced. You don't prepare your body or try to get your body balanced strength wise, then when you do as you say, a lot of times what we end up doing is putting everything up. We put everything over here because that's where I'm strongest. That's where I carry everything, and then I carry the light stuff over here. You do that over time. Guess what? You're still training the body, and all of this is fine, but it's compensating because all of this over here is weaker. The entire core is not just I think I said this the other day, but it's not just your abs and your lower back. I mean, that's we call the natural weight belt. We call this the core sarap. It's from your right deltoid across your right pec down the center of your chest to your internal obliques, your left internal obliques, all the way down your left quad. So it goes as an X, boom, right down. My right arm is working conjunctively with my left leg. Same is true over here. And then the same is true on the posterior side from the back all the way down to your heel. That's what we call the core sarap. All those work conjunctively, right? So if all this is, if you put everything here, because that's what you're used to doing, and you never really work any of this on a consistent basis, you're going at some point, and this is going to happen with time. If you're not really fortifying your body, you're going to start to feel it. You try to do something that's going to require you to use this part, it ain't happening because you've yet to really, really train this part. Not only that, over time, it's almost like overtraining in this area because you've used it so much. Well, now at some point it's going to give out because it's always compensating. Or you may get these tight muscles. Same thing happens with a lot of times with our TFL and our piriformis, down the base of our abs going into, the top of right in the pelvic area into the quadricep. Those muscles end up getting tight because we end up using a lot of them on one side to compensate for something weaker on the other side. It's a natural thing. But this is the problem. If we have this mentality, oh, well, I'll just wait to do the activity and then, that'll train me and get me ready for whatever it is that I'm going to be doing. It's only so much. It's only so much.
So there were a few people on those posts. It was like two that said like, yes, I totally exercise, like all that kind of stuff has changed. It's necessary for me to dive. And one guy who was like, man, I'm trying to get back into that because I have a job and that's weakened me. over the
Yeah.
long term. So we weren't totally falling on deaf ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can't imagine that we would be. I think a lot of people, it's like it's interesting in different industries. You know, some people are more willing to speak up than others, but otherwise, some people will be like, you know what, I really like what you said, because I'm around a lot of people who think differently, but I'm glad somebody is actually saying something. And I think we're in one of those industries. Like I think, like I told you the story that Gretchen told me. That is still true anywhere. I think in diving. You know, you can be talking to two people or maybe one person about, oh, what do you do? Well, I'm doing fitness on the side, but I also bring fitness to scuba diving. And then you have two people who are part of scuba diving, and they kind of overhear it, and it's like, you need to do all that for. I mean, you're, like you said, the philosophy that you gave earlier. You know, all you need to do is just do the activity, and you should be fine. You know, the activities that we have to pass in order to get to the. In fact, let me put it like, oh, I got a perfect story for you. There was a guy in Dominican Republic, the same guy I was just telling you about, who I had to do the equipment exchange. The first time when he had already done a lot of his skill training when he got there, right? Probably I was almost done. One morning he was having to do I think it was his 800-meter swim. Okay, so just when I tell you, this guy, he didn't finish. He couldn't complete it. I think he got maybe up to maybe 600 meters. He came out of the water. He was literally about to pass out. They had to give him water. He had to lay down. His heart rate was up. He was saying that his muscles were just, he was just really exhausted, or, they were just starting to cramp up and all that. When I looked at this guy, I've looked at a lot of people when they, over the years, and I could tell that this guy, his cardio was diminished. It was diminished, and it was going to take him time to be able to get his cardio up to the place where he could do what he needed to do in that water. He was done. He was done. That dude, he came up, they sat him next to the pool water where they clean off the equipment. He was lying on the bench. He was there. They kept having to, bring him water just to make sure that one, that he wasn't overheating, but then two, they wanted to make sure too that his heart rate was coming down because it was staying up so high. And so they were doing the right thing, but that is a perfect example of someone that wasn't just eating a bunch of fast food the day before, or had too many beers the night before. This is somebody who came in who probably had been eating fine regularly, but still his cardio hadn't really been working out or doing anything necessary that would prepare him for that level of cardio. That's a level of cardio that your body, your lungs, and the rest of your body has to be prepared for, and it wasn't. So, for some people, it's maybe it's just going to fall on deaf ears, but I can't see it any other way.
No, man, I appreciate you sharing that story. I think that's like really highlights the point, because like that, I feel for that guy. I didn't really do that well on my initial swim test. I just wasn't in swimming shape. Mm-hmm. And that sucks to like have something hold you back from, he went there to do diving, like to dive, and just like having a liability. So I love that. And I want you to keep going. If you have anything that you wanted to share prepared.
Sure. Yeah. I was part of what I just wanted to share was a lot of what we've been talking about. And that's just, having a plan. When we think about fitness and scuba diving, if you're finally, getting to a state, and, in fitness, we have what's called the stages of readiness. And, usually when you're on stage 1 and 2, you're not necessarily mentally ready to go forward with it. Stage 2, you kind of know that you need it, but you're still not ready to do it. I think I would probably classify people even in the scuba diving, industry, in other industries, the same way. They know that they probably need it, particularly with a lot of the rigors of scuba diving, depending on how far they want to go with it. but maybe they're not ready to apply fitness. But then those who are, the requirements, making a plan for what it is, that you want to do is and the kind of shape that you want to be in based on the goal that you have for scuba diving. It's not just like getting in crazy shape, because a bodybuilder, somebody who has just crazy dense muscle, is not ready for scuba diving. As good as they might be in the gym and aesthetically appealing as they might look, even without all the drugs, you're not physically ready for, you can carry some things, but as far as the cardio, or just even being able to be buoyant, and controlling the breath and having oxygenated muscle, really more type 1 muscle, it doesn't exist right now. So there's a plan that has to be put in place. And I think this all falls in line with, figuring out what is it that you want to do. You want to, as far as when it comes to scuba diving, you have a goal in mind. Now, how do you prepare your body for those rigors and for the goals that you're wanting to achieve? And a lot of that has to do with the fitness planning. And so you have to, you look at your strength, you look at, as I was talking about earlier, the imbalance of strength in your body. You look at your endurance, and we talked a little bit about this last time, but I want to kind of go more into that. And how do you prepare, let's say, a program for yourself, to increase, your strength, to increase your endurance. And I think I touched on a little bit of that before. And just a very succinct and basic format: 3 to 4 sets, 10 to 12 reps of anything that where it comes to your chest, your back, and your legs, 3 to 5 times a week, 60 to 90 minutes in a regime, is what's going to increase strength over time. It's just bottom line. If you stay consistent in that way, you're going to increase strength. 3 to 5 times a week, 60 to 90 minutes, 3 to 4 sets, 10 to 12 reps of about, I would say, 65 to 75% of, I wouldn't even say that. I would probably say 80 to 85% really of a 1 rep max is going to create strength. Anything higher than that, you're getting more into power. So now you're going to reduce those reps significantly, and you're going to do them more explosively. But if you're looking to do strength, then you want to be around 80. It can be 80 to 85, depending on the way that you do the exercise. If you're doing higher reps but slower and more deliberate, where you have more time under tension, that also creates strength. So you can do higher reps with lower weight. But if you're doing it faster with lower weight, now you're talking about endurance. Okay, so anywhere from, I say, 12, 15, almost 15 to 20 reps, lower weight, 3 to 4 sets, sometimes even 5, less time to rest. Now you're talking about endurance. And again, just figuring out what is it that you want to do. So if I'm looking at you right now, and I thought, okay, what is Mike, what does he want to work on? What is it that you want to work on for you? If you're thinking about like your present day fitness wise, what is it that you've thought about that you want to work on?
Probably endurance.
Endurance?
Yeah.
So right now, what do you do for endurance?
I swim.
Is there anything else?
That's probably the biggest thing.
Is there a gym that you go to at all, or do you have a gym that you go to?
There is a fitness center around in our community. Yeah.
Have you ever tried using kettlebells?
Yes, and I also have some kettlebells.
You do? Okay. Yeah. To me, there is, I would say, I think alongside swimming, there is no better way to increase your endurance than using the kettlebell, just because of its nature. Number one, I just love the fact that it's a cast iron bell that was created by the Russians for their military way back in the day, and that's what they used to build themselves up. But the other part is I love that if you do it the right way, it forces you, it forces your lungs to operate in a way that I don't think machines or other, barbells, dumbbells, they just don't have the same appeal. If you can use them both in the frontal, sagittal plane, but more importantly, the transverse. And you don't really, the transverse is more rotational, and you don't really get to use dumbbells that same way, or even a barbell. It's usually going to be more frontal here or sagittal here, and that's biomechanically your movement, the plane that you're in when you're moving. The transverse here is what you're able to do, and doing a lot of rotational pulls across the body, and then doing a press. But you're working so many, as a multi-dimensional aspects of your body that's being worked, both strength and endurance, that you just don't get with, like I said, with dumbbells and barbells. What weights do you have? Or what are the loads? What are the loads that you have on your kettlebells?
235s and a 50.
Oh my goodness. Oh my man, you better get in. You better jump into that. That's perfect. That's all you need. You've got a 50 for strength and power, and you've got 35s for also for a little bit of strength, but more endurance. I mean, that's perfect. Yes. Yeah. That's, for that, that's that. And for some, if you're doing more swimming right now, something that would be really cool to do is to change it up so that your body gets shocked. And your body has to adapt. Like, what's Mike doing? What's he doing? Your body then begins to adapt, and you start seeing those endurance increases happen like this, so yeah, I love that. That's part of, to me, that's what you're looking to do. That's what I would say, put a plan together where, the next, 3 to 5 weeks, especially getting yourself ready for the training that you're going to be doing, in the summertime, and that would be spot on. That'd be spot on. And that's how you want to look at it. That's how you want to look at it. Even everyone should be looking at it. What do I have coming up in the next, 4 or 5 months that I want to get ready for? Create these micro to mesocycles, 2 to 4 weeks, 2 to 4 week microcycles, 6 to 8 week mesocycles, where you are. So 2 weeks, maybe you're doing something, you're focusing on a little bit of cardio. So then the next, maybe you take a mesocycle, 4 weeks, you're going to work on strength. And then from there, maybe you have another, 6 weeks to finish off. You really just focus and harness your endurance, but you've got these plans in place to start, building yourself up.
Where do you think endurance would help with scuba diving?
Where do I think it would help?
Yeah.
I think in long swims, I remember when, especially when you have to continue going, and it's not something, when you're having to have a continuous pace, perhaps, through, the resistance of the water, depending on, where, the current is flowing, but, and having to get to a certain place at a certain time. So for instance, when I was in DR, it was me and another guy, and we were actually, goodness gracious, we had kind of gone off too far, and so he was one lead guiding, but we both decided, okay, it's time, let's just go up, let's see where we're at. So we were able to get up and actually kind of see. We had to do our safety stop, and then we were able to come up and like, okay, let's take it back down. We took it back down maybe about 10 feet, maybe 15, and we had to hightail it with a consistent pace. And that alone, I could tell too, just as we were swimming and in our strokes, you can feel the lactic acid beginning to build up in certain parts of your body. But what happens is, if your muscle is trained, you're not getting to this high place. There's this place where it's just burning, where you have to stop. No, now your muscles and your I should say your the Krebs cycle. Your Krebs cycle is is trained, is such a a wonderful place where you're not hurting for acetylcholine, and you're not hurting for oxygen and CO2 and all. You're not hurting for it. You can still feel it, but you're still able to continue going, and that really is the measure when you're really needing that endurance, when you're having to continue moving forward at a certain place, trying to get to at a certain time for distance, and for time. That's probably the best example, because we were so far away, and I just remember that when we got back, thinking, oh my goodness, my endurance has gotten so much better since I've gotten down, because I wasn't in the best shape when I got down there either, and it took a little time for me to do some things back in my condo, and at the same time while I was in the water.
That sounds exactly what I had in mind, is because over here when we're fossil diving, it's like at 30 feet, and it's just like swim as much as possible, cover as much ground as possible, and we would put on long fins, like free dive fins, and just move like I was on a freaking elliptical, dude, for over an hour sometimes, because it's also like, well, you got to control your breathing so you don't go through, so you can maximize your time down there, and like moving all the time, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like nonstop, and I'd be like, holy crap, like I am working it. And we'd do 3 dives some days, and those were the times where it's like you don't really realize, like you were saying, that you're in good shape, and then you go back and you're like, man, like, I'm like, ooh, let me pause for a second, and do it in like shorter spurts. So I've definitely seen that in action.
No, that's exactly right. And I think that most people, especially in who've done it, that had that experience, can testify to that as well. That's one of the, I would say it's one of the few times. My 800 meter was the other one too. And when I realized that because I I talk about this other guy, but my 800 meter, I finished my 800 meter. And I actually got the second fastest time. But I was at a place in myself when I was sitting there, I'm going back and forth. We were actually we didn't have just like one long stretch. We had to keep going back and forth, across the shore. And, I'm seeing a sea snake and all this other stuff that's there. Plus, my body, I'm starting to hurt, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I've got enough time. I can just come back and just do this again. But then I thought I had this, I don't know. It's the other part of it that I think that's also, I don't want to dismiss this, but I think it's your will. It's your will to get it done, and to get it done safely, make sure you're doing it the right way. But I think your will, believe it or not, has a lot to play in with how you approach fitness and how your body responds to the conflict, the rigors, the resistance, and then how you continue to push it going forward. And as long as you're doing it safely, no matter how badly it hurts, you're like, you know what, I guess if I'm gonna die, you do it safely. It's amazing when you come out of that, the confidence that you have, the psychological edge that you have too, realizing I just did that and I'm okay. Because the next time I know I can do this. I'm going to be better for it too. I'm going to recover from this, and I'm going to be better going forward. And I'm not going to feel like this again. I shouldn't feel like this again, as long as I'm doing it, consistently. So, anyways, that's what I have for today, brother. It really is. It's really about, structuring, making sure that you have a plan in place. And I think if you have a plan in place, it's something that you've always wanted to do, figure out what it is that you're looking to accomplish, and then structuring a plan based on strength and endurance, for now at least, as you're moving forward, and making sure that if it's not in the gym, body weight. If it's not, if you want to add other things, other apparatuses, dumbbells, resistance bands, kettlebells, especially for the industry that we're in and the environment that we're in. Those, that equipment is so easy. And I think it's perfect for us as well. To me, it should be just a staple of what it is that we're doing, honestly.
So I want to add in how we were saying like diving doesn't necessarily get us in shape. I was doing 10 to 15 dives a week. So
Mhm.
that's a different situation than someone who's doing 5, maybe a month, thinking that that's going to get them in shape. Where this,
Yeah.
like, that was, and I was pushing it purposefully. Like, I'm going to push this to my absolute max until like I need to, like, slow down.
And you're right, because that's exactly what I was doing. Even in that month, I was doing anywhere from 3 to there was only 2 days, I think, maybe 2 or 3 days that I did five dives in a day. But otherwise, yeah, they were shorter dives though. But otherwise, for the most part, it's 3 to 4 dives a day in a week, and that's what I had to do because I only had a certain amount of time. And you're right, you're doing it consistently like that, and you're having to swim. You're going to. It's almost like it is like a type
And
of
it can be like a
exercise.
fitness camp. For
Absolutely.
the average person diving, it's not like that. It's
No question. Yeah,
maybe on the weekend.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So like looking at something outside. You ever use sandbags too?
I do, but I have something else I think it's even better than sandbags. It's called a tidal tank, and it's constructed just like a sandbag, same handles and same handle placement. Instead, it's water, and so
Uh,
now you're not just talking about primary movers that are. It's almost like every muscle is a primary mover because of the shifting of the water. So it's all this isokinetic movement, right? That to me has been more beneficial than just a sandbag. You can do all the same things. I mean, picking it up, all of it. But I'm telling you, and I'll tell you this: the other one I like is the Bulgarian split, the Bulgarian sandbag. You know what I'm talking about?
it's
It
kind of like
looks
a
like,
U shaped.
yeah, it looks like a kidney almost. Yeah, that one's amazing. I love that I love. But the when you're just talking about that elongated bag, yeah, the tidal tank.
So I
That's
actually do a lot of work on like one of the Swiss balls
mhm.
with two. They're like kettlebells, but they're filled with a few pounds of water.
Yeah,
I'll twist those around. So that's funny that you say that. I like
yes.
those a lot.
In fact, my client was just talking to me about that. Those were called what did she call those? She called them something. They were, because she asked me about them just the other day, and I said, because I was telling her about the let me see. Did she say? Let's see. Do you remember I think they're called Kamagons. Kamagon.
I have no clue.
Oh yeah, I looked it up. It was Kamagon, and yeah, but that's exactly what she was just talking about that the other day. Yeah,
Yeah,
I totally agree.
I got them a few years ago off of this proper body exercise. It was some Russian stuff.
Oh yeah,
When me and my buddy were getting into plyometrics and stuff, like
I'm telling
came
you.
across it.
I'm telling you, they had the right idea when they came up with those kettlebells, dude.
You know
Seriously.
what they used to do to train their athletes is have them put water in their mouth
Hmm.
and then exercise to
Really?
force them to nose breathe.
That's
To know if
interesting.
they didn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's interesting. Another client of mine she's a doctor, and she was just talking about one of the morning exercises that she has is learning how to do, I think about it, it's a 7-minute exercise where that increases heart rate, but it only allows her to breathe through nasal passages in order to increase VO2 and the exchange of gases in a greater capacity. And so something I was looking up, and I thought, man, this is really interesting. But I didn't know and maybe that's what they were trying to do even um, with the training, the direction that we're doing. Yeah, it's something I would love to try. I'll tell you what, I may just do like an ounce or two in the beginning just to make sure, because I may be here like, okay, let me let me let me try this again. But yeah, no, I think anything that even if it's new, you know, if it underscores, if it promotes, if it enhances, so much of what we already know about the science of this thing, until we come up with like just new discoveries, foundational and legitimate discoveries, anything that underscores and promotes and enhances what we already know, I think it's beautiful. And I think it's worth trying, and sometimes some things may not work for others, but, you know, see how it works for you, you know. I think a lot of fitness, I know a lot of fitness is like that too. Seeing how it works for you. Plyometrics, not everybody's going to be apt to plyometrics. Not everybody's going to be apt to power movements. Not everybody's going to be apt to a lot of hypertrophy work. They may do a little bit, but that's not really their bag. See how your body responds, maximally to certain styles of exercise, and then go forward with it.
I guess a little bit physically too. Like I love the plyometrics because it just makes me feel like I'm flying.
Absolutely, of course,
So, like I know that, like, oh, if you like running, then run. Don't ride your bike all the time.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I just kind of thought how like the oxygen advantage also. I mean, I guess we've thought about this, but I've never thought to talk on it. Where the oxygen advantage improves fitness, but also diving, breathing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not really at the level to speak on improving sports performance, more just like functional breathing, which is scuba diving, ideally. Like, did I tell you about the woman that I brought into the pool a few weeks ago to train with me?
I don't think so.
So I just wanted to work on some stuff, working with UTD, like they're all about the buoyancy and these skills. They're these basic 6 skills, regulator, mass skills, which I've done a million times, but the coach wanted to see them in neutral buoyancy.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to film and I did everything, was looking really good. And I had her do it. And she was just straight to the knees, struggling with some of the skills. Didn't really, she was like, how did you hold neutral buoyancy? Because I also did some drills where you swim up to a line and back kick back and swim up to a line, back kick. Another one, you go up 3 feet, stop, go down 3 feet, stop, back and forth up a line. And she's like, how'd you do that? And I was like, well, it's all in the breathing. And she's like, what do you mean? So we went into the shallow end and I took the BC off of her, kind of like I was saying with these other students, and we just hung the hose down and she just breathed off that. And like you have a little bit of weight on your weight belt if you're a positively buoyant person. Mm-hmm. And then you can pick up other weights. And like she felt neutrally buoyant without necessarily swimming, but just like staying right there. Because sometimes that's a lot for people to, the wetsuit's up, the weights are down, you've put air in the BCD, it's up, your breathing is volatile. And it's just like, that's a lot, too many pieces of the puzzle. So if we can just kind of eliminate those. And she felt that. And she's like, well, that was pretty cool. It's like, you didn't know that buoyancy was for breathing, which is like, it's interesting. And like, that's what these guys talk about is like, the buoyancy is to control the up and down.
That's right.
Like that is it. And the fact that as we're doing that, it's moving enough gas through our body to keep us alive.
That's right.
And I think some people, when I talk about the breathing LSD, like light, slow, and deep, like breathing gently, breathing slowly, because if someone's or like breathing really quickly, one that leads to hyperventilation, which can lead to panic, it never helps. Like if we're like struggling to do something, sometimes people are struggling to descend because they're going, and they're so your lungs never really get empty, so you have extra buoyancy in your body, and then you're like frustrated, and then you're just like, and there's just a lot going on. I'm just like, hey, just relax,
Mm-hmm.
But breathing slow kind of slows that process down, where if I breathe in, breathe out, and then like if I don't wait to breathe out and descend back, then I'm at this level. And then I breathe in and I'm at this level. And now my BCD's expanded and I floated away.
That's right.
Or if I'm like, then I can, and this is a small window, but I can stay right there if the breathing is slowed down.
Yeah.
But like I've talked about, like people breathe like 15 to 20 times a minute, which is a lot. And it should be closer to 6. And when we're underwater, like it could be like very slow, like, and that's not something that people time, but it is an easy exercise to just like start a stopwatch and just be like in 4, out 6.
Yeah.
In 4, out 6. And that's like 6 breaths a minute. Do that for 10 minutes. And like people can start to see how that feels. If that feels natural or if that feels like really like, ooh, I felt kind of suffocated there.
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the things that helped me control my breathing early on when I think I told you I was sucking a lot of air, and I find that we'd be at depths of about 40 feet, maybe 38, 40 feet. And we're still about, maybe 6 or 7 minutes away from actually ascending. Is I started to notice how I would start to, kind of ascend. I'm like, wait a second. No, my breathing's been the same. What's going on? Well, my tank is starting to empty. And so I started doing these, I started, kind of doing what you were using, kind of the LSD, trying, not knowing, obviously I didn't know it back then, but the idea of that, of just, releasing the air, taking, slower, deeper breaths, and then releasing the air. And I would come down, and then stay there with everybody. But I knew what was happening. But I was trying to practice that for as long as I could before I knew, okay, this is just going to happen. There's no way I'm going to be able to control this. But I will say too, the other thing that really helped me was when I was able to, when we started doing more of the deeper dives, because you're breathing slow. It should, well, at least mine did. Mine really slow when we got down to depths of close to, I'd say when we got to around 90 to 100 feet, you really feel the pressure there, but the breaths become slower. And mine in the beginning didn't, but I started to do that a lot more and practice that. Whatever I did at deeper levels, I try to do at elevated levels, like 30, 40 feet, almost the same way, almost like I was like at 100, or 110. It took some time, but I mean, that really helped me as I got closer to the time that I was about to leave.
Yeah, that's like, and again, I'm not really keen to speaking on deeper depths past than 100, because I know, like, at those depths, carbon dioxide poisoning starts to become an issue too, like into the technical and rebreather realms. Like, they know a little bit more about gas exchange than I do on scuba versus just like open water recreational.
Yeah.
But yeah, when that air becomes really thick, it is harder to move in and out.
Yeah.
And I think it was the day after we talked, listening to a guy who was discussing like deep dives on air or nitrox, where it's so hard to move that gas in and out of our lungs because it's so dense that, like, we end up like not feeling like we can get the carbon dioxide in or out, or like enough air, and it causes some issues. So like, that's where I really think that building these habits ingrained, because dude, I play with that all the time where I'm not properly weighted. If I'm teaching a class, sometimes, like in moments where, like, today I had my weights on and then I thought everyone was weighted and someone needed an extra like 2 or 4 pounds, I don't remember, so I had to take them out, and then my BCD was like kind of light, and we're in 4 feet of water, so I'm like, and then you have to like play in a different range of your lung capacity.
Yeah.
Which is where I think the last bit of breathing deep really comes into play, is just like, if people are taking shallow breaths, then they're not able to fully empty or fill their lungs. Like, I know sometimes if something got off with me and I try and breathe and it's like up here, it like hurts my chest because it like just pushes right there, versus using all this space way down here that is just like open for muscle expansion.
Yeah.
And that way, like, if I really, really need to descend, I can fully exhale, inhale just partially, and then get back to normal breathing. Or if I need to, like, sometimes I need to, pick up an extra weight, dealing with students or, whatever. And then it's just like, and it's cool to feel like that little bit. That's something that people don't always feel, is that like our lungs have an ability to, like, when we were playing, we didn't have the BCs on, we had a bunch of weights on, and we're picking them up. And I showed them, like, I was too light and I picked up a 2-pound weight and I was pretty good. And then I picked up another 2-pound weight, and then I could breathe a little bit more comfortably. Like, I could take fuller breaths. And then I picked up another 2-pound weight and I just went, I was like, yeah, so it has like a limit of like how much I can almost like hold with my lungs, even though I'm holding it with my hands.
Yeah. Something that we used to, there's a breathing technique that we started to use when I was in theater back in the day. What was it? Was it was it my last? I think it was my last pro show. This is when I learned this one. It's called Getting High. And we had there were I know there were a lot of different exercises.
Mine.
Yeah, right. there were a lot of like breathing exercises that we learned in theater. I mean, I think I told you that earlier, but this one I loved because, man, not only did you were just talking about filling up your lung capacity, but emptying your lung capacity and what it does is you get this shotgun of oxygenated air throughout the entire body. I'm talking, and you feel it here first, and then you feel, and then you're nice and open. But what you do is you take three deep breaths, exhale, and then on the third one you exhale, and you just keep exhaling until you can't go anymore, until you're and then there's a silence, and then you keep pushing until you can't, and then you close your mouth, you pinch your nose, and then you try to suck in through your nose. Even though it's pinched, you try to breathe in as hard as you can and continue to do that, and then release your nose, and then all this air just, like I said, shotguns right into your nasal passages. And it's amazing just your how your lungs fill up, but then the rest of the body just feels like you are floating, and you feel amazing. You almost feel atmospheric. It's incredible. Well, you do that almost 2 or 3 times, and it energizes you. Like I said, you get a lot of really good oxygen, into the body. And I didn't do that when I was down there. I did that a lot more, like I said, almost before any show. Anytime I'm getting ready to do like a heavy deadlift, I usually do it because I'm trying to, I want some good oxygen, in my lungs, in my body, and just kind of wake me up. But it is one of the best exercises I have ever tried. You'd be amazed. You'd be amazed.
No, so that is because you're increasing the carbon dioxide, so you're allowing that oxygen to get to the brain and the cells and the muscles, so you do get that energy. And that's what I'm always talking about with like doing more with less.
Yeah.
And when we hyperventilate, we take in too much air, but we don't allow enough CO2 to be built up, so then we are not getting oxygen to the brain. So that exercise is awesome, man.
Yeah,
that's like really simple. Like I'm always trying to tell people to breathe less, because when we do that, we can restore the balance a little bit and actually utilize that oxygen. That's sweet.
Yeah. It's pretty remarkable, man. Yeah, one of these days we'll have to try that when we're not recording. That way, if we start coughing and hyperventilating, we won't do that though. But if you get a chance to try it, man, like I said, I think you would really like it. It was 2012. 2012 was when I learned that one.
Nice.
And it's try to use it ever since. But yeah, man, what else you got for me, man? What else you got?
Dude, I think that's it, man. I'm feeling good. Yeah, I feel good on this conversation. I'm about to have dinner, so this is a good time to wrap it.
Absolutely, man.
I really liked what you shared about the endurance, and also putting it on me a little bit to step it up.
Hey, oh no, I'm just keeping it interactive.
I do gotta step it up.
Hey, that's you know what, for me, man, it's everybody always, especially because I know that you and I have this love for fitness, and so if I know that we don't always talk about what it is that you're about to get into, and so I want to know, like, those things. I love when I love knowing what people are trying to do, in that moment. We're talking about fitness, we're talking about, helping other people, but what are we trying to do even in our own personal lives? Because it makes it more, I think it makes it more relevant, and people know that we have to put the work in too. It's not just, the same thing with the breathing, something we all have to practice in order to attain, those impactful things that we're trying to accomplish. So yeah, absolutely.
The endurance thing isn't even totally scuba related. I'm looking to crew for a buddy who's running an ultra marathon.
No way, dude.
In Arizona.
When is this?
May.
Yeah. Oh, we need to get you ready, man.
And he wants, if I crew for him, I'll have to run like some 10-mile stretches at a time with him.
We need to get you ready.
I know.
We need to get you. Yeah, so we need to talk. We need to talk. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's awesome, dude.
It's like a very slow pace that he'll be running at that time, but it's still like still moving. you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't think
And
I've
it's,
ever really practiced going 10 miles at a time.
and in that, because you're, I mean, you're used to that. You're right now too. You're used to that. A lot of moisture in the air where you are. You're going out there to some dry heat. That's a different story.
And elevation.
And elevation.
So the breathing mechanics are going to come into play huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you above sea level out there? You're not above sea level, right?
I guess with the amount of ups and downs in this thing, he's going to be climbing Mount Everest basically twice.
Oh,
Not to the height of it, but
yeah.
like going up, coming down, going up, coming down.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. You will. There'll be some thinning of the oxygen in the air then. Okay. Yeah. We gotta get you ready, man. We gotta get you
Which
ready.
is like the whole, like a huge part of the oxygen advantage is bringing the mountain to you.
Mhm.
And you know that old thing, like live at high elevation or train at high elevation.
Yeah.
Like there's ways to do that. Or is it, I forget if it's live or train. But ways to do that being still at sea level with breath holds.
Yeah. And yeah.
So I'm
The one thing I will say that it is impossible, and this is why I've never cared for those masks that you would see people wearing in the gym, because they're trying to simulate, not having as much oxygen, or simulate, being at above sea level, so that there's less oxygen coming in. It's, your body knows that you're at freaking sea level. Your body knows when you're above sea level, and physiologically, it's going to help start increasing, more red blood cells. But you're not going to do that. Your body's not going to do that at sea level just because you have a mask on your face. It doesn't happen.
So we can do it with breath holds. I think. Yeah.
Are you talking about the
mat? The breath holds should come before the mask. People don't know about the breath holds, so they use the mask.
Mm-hmm.
But the mask usually doesn't even address if they're breathing functionally or not. But we can increase red blood cell count with breath holds.
With breath holds, yes. Yeah. But that's
some crazy oxygen advantage guys use the oxygen advantage techniques and masks. But I don't know that much about it.
It's oxygen deprivation. There are two really good articles. They're not very old either, peer reviewed. Oxygen deprivation at sea level, induced oxygen deprivation at sea level. It just depends. The amount of red blood cells that are created at sea level because of where the body is physically is just not the same as it is when you're physically elevated. When you are literally physically elevated, and you have over a period of time, because of the duration of time that you're at above sea level, the number of oxygen, the number of red blood cells is increased dramatically. That's the problem I've always had with those masks. And so I would be interested to see too more of, I know that your red blood cells are increased with oxygen with breath holds, but I would like to see, again, the duration though is only for so long. It's not the same as if you're literally standing at above sea level breathing, because there's just, again, the oxygen capacity or levels at above sea level are just so much thinner.
Yeah, I haven't dove into that part of the book in a while.
Yeah.
But
I'll send you those articles. I'll say, yeah, because I would love to see that too. Because I know there's a lot of research that's come out, especially in the last several years. That's when we really saw a lot of those masks being utilized.
When you're checking those articles, see or when you send them to me, if they're inhale breath holds or exhale breath holds.
Okay. I think they were inhale. I think it was inhalation.
So I want strictly.
I'll have to look at that. Yeah, I'll have to look and see. That's that I have to look and see, because the same thing was. There's another. I have to look and see. But I'll send it. Yeah, I'll definitely, because I've got them on my other computer. I always kept those around. I was an old buddy of mine, a professor of mine, who sent those over to me back in the day. We used to talk about this all the time before scuba diving. It was all before scuba diving, and we used to just make fun of so many people with the mask. And so anyways, yeah, but I have to check that out. I have to see what
Cool.
that, you know.
Heck
Yeah, man.
Hey, good talking to you, brother.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. What's for dinner, dude? What's for dinner?
That's a good question. That's why I got to go out.
You gotta go find
I
out.
don't really know
Okay.
the deal.
Yeah, I got some stuff I need to fix. I got some chicken in there I'm gonna fix, and then I got some other work I'm gonna do online too. So
Okay, man.
yeah, man. Have a great Sunday, dude. And
We'll talk soon.
next week.
Okay. Sounds
All right,
good.
man. See ya.
Take it easy.